keep on rolling. Inhale, exhale. We're almost through this. We're getting into the nitty-gritty parts of it, and then we'll be able. I'll do a review, so y'all's minds won't be blown. Okay, so talk about thumbnails. Rules of thumb. Video series need to have similar designs or have numbers so you know that they go with each other. That's just a rule of thumb. It's really important to have that. I'm going to show you examples of that here in a second. Don't put tons of text. That will be hard to read. You can't read a thumbnail. It's really, really small. You need to put all that text into the actual title itself. It should be pretty straightforward, but sometimes people have put too much text in there, and I'm like, I don't know what this paragraph says. It's really small. It's like 2 pixels wide. Don't do that. Just, if you're going to do a logo, let's say you're playing a specific type of game, and they have a logo for it, just slap the logo in there, and that'll be enough. Make sure your brand is in there somewhere. How are people going to know you did it? That's what they're looking for. They're looking to know that you made it. So you need to have your brand in there, either your face or your logo, whatever. And then make sure all the thumbnails have one thing in common. If Vince does thumbnails and all his thumbnails look extremely different, he better have his Geek Out as a logo in there somewhere in each and every one of those, because everyone will know that he made his logo. He made those videos. That's his stuff. Easy. So here's some thumbnail art. It's kind of small, but hopefully we can kind of see the idea of it. I'm actually going to walk over here so I can point at it a little bit. This is Game Grumps. You should be able to tell, even though it's really far away, what series go with what. You can even see with the background colors on them what goes to what too. Red, 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 blue. There's the blue over here. They don't actually go together, but there is a series that goes with that. Purple, purple. They all work together. In each one of these, you can see the number of the series, you can see the logo for the game, and you can see our 2 stars, which is Danny and Aaron. Super easy. This is a live version of them. What's all in common here? We see their faces. We know it's them. We know they're doing stuff. Even in this animated version here, we have the logo for Game Grumps. So we still know it's them. All this stuff is perfect. Perfect branding. Know exactly who they are and that they made it. This is Matthias. He does a bunch of different stuff. He does tons of different channels. He's doing product reviews. His brand is his name and his face. This is reputation based. There's his face. There's something interesting. This is known as classy clickbait, because right here he has something that's interesting, strange looking, confusing, and he talks about what it is. Look at that tiny camera. Isn't that crazy? It's not that great. But he shows it on here going, wow, it's small, but in reality it's small in quality too. So that's great because you know exactly that he does this, and all of them are pretty much the same apart from this one, but the reason he can get away with that is because his face isn't there. You know it's still him. This is an animator. When you're an artist, you can get away with stuff like this. Notice he has nothing that is really in common with any of these things other than his art style. That's something that only artists can do. They can stick with their specific art style, and you know it's them no matter what. That's kind of an artist thing. You can do that too if you have a specific artist that does your graphics or something like that. People will kind of recognize that too. But I would always recommend doing a format like this. And then Worth It. It's a series all about food and how much it costs. You get the whole idea of what's going on here. There's the Worth It tag on all of these videos. There's our 2 stars again, just like Game Grumps. And there's how much it costs. Oh my God, why does it cost that much? There's your hook, tasteful clickbait. And there's the image of this amazing $200 pie. Super easy, super clean, beautiful. That's what you want. Good, bad, and the plain ugly. This is what to do and this is what not to do. Game Grumps, again. Looks perfect. You get the name, you get the guys' heads, you get part of the, you get the number of the series. Awesome. The middle ones are kind of there, but not quite. You see a picture that kind of looks interesting of Friends. That is an episode of Friends, by the way. You see all these people, but you don't know what's going on. You know, what's going on? Tell us more about it. That's just not enough information, and it looks crowded and unappealing. The one underneath it, completely cut off. Might have been a good thumbnail, but you can't see it. It broke. And the far right ones are what not to do, basically. Good art is important. If you draw like this, you may not want to be doing art on your thumbnails because it just does not look clean. It's not that it's not good, but it just doesn't look as clean and professional as some other people's artwork will look. This one, There's a lot of stuff going on here. Too much text that you can't read. You can't even read this because this background is super dark. So you can barely read trolling, but it doesn't tell you anything about what's going on. What game is this? Is this a video? Is this a game? What's happening? We're trolling a cute kid and we're raising and adopting. What does that mean? You wouldn't know unless you watch the video, which that is a version of clickbait, but it's a clickbait where you're taking a gamble on it, wondering, what is this? Why did you put this? This is not a positive version of clickbait. They're clicking it because they're like, what is this? I don't know what this is. And this is a joke. Every YouTube thumbnail ever for the next week. All these circles pointing at this. Oh my God, look at this, look at this, look at this. There is a string of those, and there's still a bunch of them that do that where they're like, oh my gosh, look at this, isn't this amazing? And there's nothing happening. It's bad clickbait, but don't do this. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. It's been overdone. So, rules of thumb for channel art. Keep it simple. Don't put tons of text. It'll be hard to read, just like thumbnails. Make sure your brand is in there somewhere. Your face, your logo, etc. Your videos, thumbnails, and brand should all have something in common. This could be your logo or your colors. Game Grumps, for example, has actually a frame that goes around each game that they have, and then they either have their names or they have their characters in it, depending on what it is. It all goes together, it all matches, and that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes your videos need to have those little bits and pieces inside of it, and that'll help you kind of merge all your brands together as well. Good, the bad, and the plain ugly. Here we go again. There's PewDiePie before he had his crazy abstract channel. There's the Brofist. There he is, and there's his name. Awesome. Top here, become a bro. First thing that pops up. Awesome. Jacksepticeye. All the same stuff that I showed you earlier. Green, green, green. Good to go. This guy. This looks like it's good to start with, but the reason this is not good is because it doesn't tell you what he does, and it doesn't really tell you much about him. PewDiePie is, again, you wouldn't know that he plays games from this, and you wouldn't know that from Jack, but his specifically, it's his logo, and then a really bad photograph of him, not because of his expression, because of the lighting. He didn't do very good on the lighting. He didn't take a good quality photograph. If you're going to do something silly like this, take a good photograph of yourself, and he probably doesn't need this logo if he's actually in there. That's kind of like slapping the logo twice because his face is the logo. Don't do it twice. Don't be repetitive. It's just him. This one, too much going on. Don't know what this is. Don't know what it's for. I literally looked up strange YouTube channels, and this is what I found. I think there was one video in this one. It doesn't tell you much about what's going on other than they like memes. It's just a mess. You don't want to do something like this unless you are reputation-based, people know you, because otherwise it's confusing and it doesn't really convey what you do other than you like dogs, you like memes, and you like galaxies. That's just not helpful. This one would be good, but look at all that text. That's horrible. Don't do that. If you have a schedule or something, which she's trying to convey here, which is live streams and all that stuff, you put that in a video and you provide that to people. That helps you get more videos. People will find you easily. Don't do this. This is just complicated. Put that video in front. Put it as your introduction video and say, this is my schedule. This is when I'm doing that stuff. Nitty gritty. It's activity time, kids. So I want you to turn next to yourself. Turn next to the person next to you. There we go. I want you to kind of talk to each other about what your YouTube name, what your channel type is, and what your goal is for it. And I want you to brainstorm what would be a good logo about it, what you think would work for their content. Talk about your content a little bit. If you're a travel agent, maybe you would do an airplane, stuff like that. Turn to each other, discuss it a little bit, and we'll talk about it in a bit here. You guys knew each other. Talk to them. But you're adults. You don't want to be friends.
Yeah, my own screening and live streaming and it's the trouble anyway. Different perspectives on I've watched a lot of YouTube got injured and I can't sleep. And I have a lot of and some of them are good. Some of them not the sounds bad. The recording quality in some stuff very, very well.
Yep.
And YouTube still seems to be completely dominant.
Mm-hmm.
There doesn't, there's videos, they're like majority streaming videos.
That's because its reputation. It had a lot of time to get all those people.
A lot of those live streaming, you stream a lot of others,
Yep.
but they're very small in comparison.
Yep.
And they now even, YouTube is dominating the live stream market because they're niche market.
Yeah.
Because theirs is free. Where the others try and charge
Yep. YouTube has a lot of problems with it too, though. There's all kinds of issues that come with that.
I was interested in like a whole live streaming current events, news, editorial, journalistic network. And I looked at like Sky News, which was worldwide and
Yeah.
when I looked at the live stream, they had 20 of
Yeah.
So why is it, maybe now it's changed every couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Now you can get, but there was all kinds of stuff on there.
Right.
Now, YouTube's even offering competitive service like cable.
Yeah.
There's so many of them.
Right.
I don't know which one's the most.
Netflix is okay. I think it's good. It just depends on what you like. Yeah. There's Hulu. There's a Crunchyroll too for anime lovers. Yeah.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So who's gonna win?
If they work together.
10, 20 choices.
Yeah. If they work together, it might be better that way. But
I found YouTube's a little bit like everything Google. It's just garbage.
yeah.
You know, everything's free. You know what I mean? They don't. You know, like from one video to the next. No,
Yeah.
If you press it on autoplay, you still kind of bring it up with one loud, one play.
Yeah.
Set
There's no equalizer. Yeah, no.
automatically adjust.
Yeah.
Most computers, I don't know any laptop computer that really has a good logic. Remote control, you
Yeah.
gotta keep getting up. You can't lie down there and do it.
Unless you set up one. I set up one and do that too.
I have an Apple, I don't know.
I'll use stuff like this or a controller, game controller. You can do that with those and do the same thing.
Oh, yeah, or use a Bluetooth keyboard or something.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's finish up conversations.
But I just found there's a total devoid of journalism. It's current events entertainment.
Yeah.
There's
a few
no real
journalists, too.
journalism, no real ideas. It's just on all the, and it's completely dominated by a few big networks.
Right.
And you go to a news station or newspaper or magazines. Other certain niche markets, that's kind of all the same.
Yeah.
You pick up a newspaper anywhere in the world, other than local news.
All right, let's discuss it a little bit and talk about what y'all chattered about. If you didn't do your homework, I'm going to be disappointed in you.
What time did you start at 7?
No, but I want to kind of look around, want you guys to look around at each other and think about what the other person told you. Did anyone end up hearing about a logo or branding that they didn't expect? One that was different? I'm going to take that as a yes from your snicker over there. Sometimes when you talk to people, they'll give you a good suggestion. Sometimes they'll give you a bad suggestion. The idea was to be able to discuss it because you'll notice that different people associate different content with different things. It's really hard to decide what you want to do, and the whole point is pretty much to understand that you have to find what works best for you, what basically represents you well and your content well, and not everyone is going to like it, not everyone is going to understand it, and that's okay. The goal is to just get something that mostly everyone can understand and something that makes you happy too, because this is all about your happiness as well, because you love to do this. You don't want to take all the fun and enjoyment out of it either, but I want to be able to have you guys talk about it a little bit, hear other people's feedback, see what they said about your logos or your branding or whatever, and see if they have any interesting suggestions that maybe you didn't expect that they associated with it. Okay, step 7, hire or do it yourself. I'm going to talk about hiring an artist or doing it yourself. I'll talk about a couple programs that'll probably help you with it that are actually free, because our programs are expensive. So break it down. We're going through this pretty fast, and I know it's a lot of information, but I'm trying to keep it as bite-sized as possible for you. So what you need is a YouTube name that works, a logo, channel art, thumbnails, video graphics, which are kind of optional depending on what you're doing, but it's good to have those match up if you do have them. That means like intros and outros. Those apply to video graphics. And then you want it consistent on all media as much as possible, unless it's a personal account, and then you can do whatever you want with it. Pros and cons of doing it yourself. A pro is you learn new skills and programs. A pro is the pride of being the only designer and only creator. I did this myself. Oh my God, I'm awesome. That is really fun, and that's a really great feeling to have. You know what your preferences are. You know what you like. You don't have to worry about explaining it to somebody else. You already know what you enjoy, so that makes it really easy. You may not be an artist. That is a con. I showed you the thumbnails earlier. If your stuff looks like that, you may want to reconsider that. But you can still do it, and that may be something that people recognize from your style, believe it or not, and you can actually use that to your advantage if you do it right. A con is good art programs can be expensive. Photoshop, stuff like that, are the normal programs that people use. They're super expensive. There is a program called Psy. There's one called Krita and Medibang Pro. All of those programs are free art programs. They are not stable programs, but they are free art programs, so you get what you ask for. Understand that and save often if you use them for your work. And then con is you're biased. The stuff that you're going to produce is stuff that you alone like, and it may not necessarily be what's good for your channel too. You want to get the best of both worlds as much as possible. Describe what you're doing, describe your product, and do something that you like. So you want to be able to have that. If you do it yourself, that's one of the problems that comes with it. You may like it and you may think it works when in reality it doesn't. Pros and cons of having an artist. You don't have to worry about the design as much. The artist knows how to do this. This is what they do. This is how they study it. You don't have to worry about the design. You can talk to them about it and collaborate with them on that, which is another pro, and they'll pretty much take it from there and show it to you and make it appealing right off the bat. That's how they work. That's how things go. Most artists are affordable and fast. Though art can be expensive on its own, it is a worthy investment, because if you do it with a good artist, it'll last you a long time. If you do it with a bad artist, you're just going to have to pay out of pocket again and be more expensive over and over again, because you have to keep changing it because that one artist didn't do it very well for you. Buck up, pay for good art, and you'll be fine. Trust me, it'll be worth it. Con is you cannot sell graphics off the bat. If you tell an artist that you want them to make a design and then you suddenly start selling it as a t-shirt, don't do that. Artists have specific ways in which they actually ask for amounts of money. It's because it depends on how you're using it. If you're going to sell it and make money off of it, they're going to charge you more because they know that you're going to sell it and make money off of it. It would suck if you sold a shirt for $3 and you paid them $1 for that, and then you sold 10 of those shirts and you only paid $1 for their stuff. That kind of cheapskates the artist. So they're going to ask you for, yes, a higher rate, but that's to compensate that you're maybe getting rich off of these things, and they need to be able to make some money too off of it.
How about an artist that works on a percentage of the profit?
So you can do that too. Most people are not willing to do that, unfortunately, but I like that idea of it much better.
Then the artist stands the potential to make a lot more, and
yep.
There's the motivation for them to do a good job because
right.
They make more if it's better.
And that's the gamble you kind of take with it, is if you're doing a one-time kind of graphic, you may just want to do it and say, cut it off, I just want a one-time graphic doing this once. If you have an artist that you do it a lot with, you may want to go with that method. But that's one that is very rare that people don't really do nowadays because they want to be able to do the get-rich-quick scheme. So that's something that unfortunately does not come up, but that's a good point. Thank you for saying that. One of the cons is not all artists are fast. Some artists take days, weeks, and months to do something that some artists can do in minutes or hours. Understand how fast your artist is, whoever they are. Talk to them and realize that they may take longer for certain things and they may take a shorter amount of time for certain things. Vince knows with collaborating with me that I can be very, very fast, and sometimes I can be very, very slow. It depends on what he asks me for. If he needs something to be changed, I can do that very fast. If he needs a whole new graphic, I have to be slower with that because there's a lot that goes into it. Understand that art takes time, and there's a lot of steps to it that you may not realize are there. That's why. There's a ton of stuff that they work on. And then one of the cons is they may not be flexible to your needs. This is kind of a key to a bad artist and sometimes a good artist too. If you ask for 20 changes on something, they're probably not going to be flexible to that because that's basically a brand new design. If you're going to say, I want 1 or 2 changes to that, they'll be flexible to it. But if they're an artist that you show them something and say, I need you to adjust this because this just doesn't look high quality, it doesn't look good, and they say, no, I'm not doing that, what are you talking about? That's a bad artist, run. It's a bad time. Pay them for it, never work with them again, because if they're not willing to be flexible with you, they're not a good artist. The whole point of being an artist is to take critique and realize that your work is going to be torn apart 30 times over again, put back together and made into something better. And that's the whole point of their existence, is they're supposed to help you, brand yourself, and make sure all your stuff matches and looks good. And if it's not doing that, just like any other job, fire them, pay them for what they did, fire them, move on to the next one, find somebody that works with you better. So let's review. We're at the end of it. Yay! A successful brand requires a YouTube name that's easy to remember. PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, stuff like that, super easy to remember. A logo that conveys what you do. Already talked about that quite a bit. Channel art, that is an introduction to your passion. I always think of it as you hop into your channel, what are you about? Show them what you're about in a simple way as possible. Thumbnails that hook people in. Tasteful clickbait, tasteful clickbait. Video graphics that match your channel. If you're going to put it in the intro and the outro, make sure that they match everything else you have. You want consistent content. You want consistent branding on all media.